Thank you and good morning, my friends, colleagues, fellow Jews. Today I stand before you and I stand before the greatest Jewish organization in the world at a crucial moment in our history. Exactly 80 years ago, in 1936, Rabbi Stephen Weiss brought a group of Jewish activists together in Switzerland to alert the world to the approaching storm coming out of Nazi Germany. But they had no influence. They had little money, and the World Jewish Congress could not persuade a single country to help. They could not stop the crisis, and more than half of the Jews on the planet were murdered. That is where we stood 80 years ago, unable or afraid to stand up and use the power we had. Believe it or not, there were even some Jewish organizations that were against letting other Jews into the United States because they were afraid it would increase anti-Semitism there. 80 years later, as we gather here in Argentina, we face new and serious problems. But we face them together. We're united. We're no longer weak. Today we have tremendous influence, and this is important. We are not afraid to use it. When you leave Argentina, you will know how we intend to lead you through this crisis and how we, the World Jewish Congress, will win in the end. Let me say this now. It has been my greatest honor of my life to lead the World Jewish Congress for the past 9 years. And with your help, with your support, and with every one of you in this room, I intend to continue as your president. Thank you. Let me begin today with a vital lesson from our past. It's a lesson we must never forget. Just 2 years after the World Jewish Congress was created, the Jews of Germany and Austria pleaded with the world for a place to go. They thought their prayers were answered when 32 countries, including the United States, met in Evian, France, to discuss taking in Jewish refugees. It was called the Evian Conference, and even Hitler said, as far as he was concerned, they could take all the Jews off his hands. But in the end, practically every country, including the United States, refused to increase their immigration numbers, not even by one person. When Jews needed the help the most, the world turned its back on them. That was the world's attitude towards Jews in 1938. They would not even save Jewish children. Jews had almost no influence in 1938, and those Jews that did have influence were afraid to use it. Nobody, not even the powerful Jewish owners of the New York Times, or the wealthy Jewish financiers, or even Jewish politicians, did anything to help. Hitler saw what happened at Evian, just as he watched the world's response to Kristallnacht 4 months later. He understood that he could do whatever he wanted with the Jews, and the world would not lift a finger. Exactly 7 years later, the world saw the results at Auschwitz, at Treblinka, and at Bergen-Belsen, and many others. Without money, without influence, without a Jewish land of our own, we were helpless. Those are the lessons we must never forget. Today, we see the rise of anti-Semitism throughout the world. Jews are murdered, Israel is vilified. The same old lies have returned, and once again, the world is silent. But we, the World Jewish Congress, will not stand by and watch this happen again. We will not be silent, and we will not be afraid to use our resources and our connections that we have at our disposal. I want to tell you about 3 things that happened in just the last 12 months. They are not the greatest problems we face, but they will give you an idea how things now work. Last March, there was an effort to kick Israel out of the World Soccer League. The World Jewish Congress went directly to then president of FIFA at the time and told him there would be consequences if this took place. The next day, they dropped the entire issue, and Israel remains in the league today. In June, Stefan Richard, the CEO of Orange, France's largest telecom operator, said, and I quote, "I would pull out of Israel tomorrow if I could." On behalf of the World Jewish Congress, I spoke to him directly. I also sent a letter to President Hollande of France. 2 days later, Stefan Richard publicly apologized for any, I quote, misunderstandings. And last summer, a Jewish singer, Matisyahu, was kicked out of the music festival in Spain because he would not condemn Israel. After a strong letter to the Spanish Prime Minister explaining how outrageous this was, Matisyahu called me and said he had been re-invited to perform at the concert. My point here is that we are no longer the quiet Jews of the past. We have influence, we have power, we know who to call, and we know they will listen. I could not do this alone. I have tremendous help from Robert Singer and the marvelous staff of the World Jewish Congress throughout the world. I also have all of you in this room to thank. There are representatives here from 67 countries around the world. Never forget, we are doing all this together for every Jew on earth. Now, I want to talk about 3 challenges that we face today. They are BDS and the war on college campuses, the UN, and security for Jews around the world. Let's start with BDS, the boycott, divestiture, and sanctions movement. It's an organized group of academics and celebrities who are using political pressure and false information about Israel to push their goals. BDS claims it is only doing this to help the Palestinian people. That's a lie. Its real aim is the destruction of Israel. The roots of BDS movement come right out of Palestinian propaganda. The World Jewish Congress has been working to expose the BDS lies. In the case of boycotts, we are pushing worldwide legislation that makes any boycott based on religion illegal, and we are winning on that front. In the case of academic boycotts against Israel, we are exposing the hypocrisy. The entire purpose of academic boycotts goes against the role of universities. They should be there with a free flow of ideas. They should not be politicized. We are constantly exposing the double standards. Since 2010, the World Jewish Congress has become one of the founders in a coalition of Jewish and pro-Israel advocacy groups working directly with the Israeli government offices. We've had some big victories in the area of divestment, but there's still much work that needs to be done. Our most valuable possessions are our children and their education. But we are sending them to colleges and universities around the world that are staffed with professionally and highly skilled anti-Israel professors and activists. Their goal is simple. They want to turn students against Israel. Most Jewish students cannot defend themselves against this. They sit in lecture halls and hear outright lies about their history, about Israel, about Jews. They hear about the pregnant Arab woman who was detained at the Israeli border. They never hear about the fighters in Syria who are treated in Israeli hospitals. No questions asked. Right now, students have no place to turn when they need help. The World Jewish Congress is creating a worldwide network of trained students to ensure that young people are not blindly swayed against Israel. The World Jewish Congress will now defend them and help them defend themselves by creating a new organization on every campus with our own skilled young professionals. The World Jewish Congress will take this fight to any anti-Semitic professor, and we will expose their lies wherever a university allows thugs to disrupt pro-Israel speakers or allow teachers to tell lies about Jews or distort history. The World Jewish Congress will be there. Here in this room today, there is a special group of young people, at least young by my standards. These are the World Jewish Congress Jewish diplomats who are working on multiple fronts. These fantastic professionals will train other young people to fight for Israel. I want you to know how proud all of us are of you. If young Jews think that Judaism is not cool, they haven't met our Jewish diplomats. I want all the Jewish diplomats here at the conference to stand up right now. I want you to give them a loud round of applause. Thank you. When Israel is vilified more than any other country on earth, this comes directly from the same lies of the 1930s. Let's get one thing straight here and now. When someone says They are not anti-Semitic, only anti-Israel. Let's call it what it is. It's a lie, and none of us, anywhere, should stand for it. When I met the late dictator of Venezuela, Hugo Chavez, may he rest in pieces. I would start the conversation off on the right foot. I said to him simply, I heard that you are anti-Semitic. Chavez quickly denied it. I'm not anti-Semitic, he says. I'm only anti-Israel. I answered, who do you think lives in Israel? Martians? He just looked at his translator, and then he looked at me, and he had no answer. That lie, I am not anti-Semitic, I'm only anti-Israel, ends here and now. I don't want any of you here in this room to ever again let this go by unchallenged. Why is Israel given unfair treatment that no other country on earth receives? Why are these lies spread about Israel? I think the answer should be clear by now. And when they go after Israel, they are indirectly going after Jews everywhere. I have watched in amazement as the United Nations, an organization created out of the ashes of World War II for the noble mission of ensuring world peace, has degenerated into a cesspool of anti-Semitism. The UN has become a mockery of itself. Think about this. Israel, of all countries, is attacked for its treatment of women. Is this a joke? No country in the world has advanced the cause of women more than the Jewish state. Israel is condemned, I quote, for crimes against humanity, for defending itself. Unbelievable. At Durban, the UN sponsored the largest anti-Semitic rally since Nuremberg. And just last month, the Secretary General of the United Nations gave his tacit approval for Palestinians to stab and shoot Jews. Enough is enough. Genug is genug. Countries like the United States that pay the majority of the UN's budget must stand up and ask where their money is going. I believe there is another route to take with the UN. I want to coordinate our efforts with non-aligned countries that have traditionally voted against Israel. We have to go to each country and remind their leaders that this coalition never helped any of them. They have given their votes to the dictators of the world, and they got nothing in return. But countries that voted with Israel were helped economically, structurally, and in many other ways. The UN may be beyond repair, but we can still work within it and around it. We should also focus here on Latin American countries. Here is a lesson that all countries should learn. Just a few weeks ago, I was invited to a major event in my honor at the Colombian Embassy to the United States in Washington, D.C. Colombia understands that it is in their interest to side with Israel and the United States because they want their economy to expand. Colombia I believe, is the only Latin American country that has not recognized a Palestinian state. And Colombia is growing. More jobs are being created. More foreign money is flowing in. But right next door, Venezuela, which has sided with revolutionary governments, is falling apart. The only thing that's expanding in Venezuela, a major oil producer, is poverty. What better example for the entire world to see? If you side with Israel and the U.S., you succeed. If you side with Iran, Cuba, and other revolutionary governments, you don't. One thing is guaranteed: you will fail. That's a lesson all of us must tell every country in the non-aligned movement. On another front, I have been concerned that many of the Jewish communities that I visit are vulnerable. We have seen Middle East terror against Jews spreading around the world. There is something that concerns us all greatly. For the past 2 years, we have developed a special office at the World Jewish Congress that is monitoring the security concerns of these communities. We are working with local governments to protect them. We are staffed by the best security people in the world. No surprise, they are all out of Israel. Most of all, we want every government in the world, large and small, friend or foe, we want them all to know that someone is watching them. I've just presented some of the challenges that we face. But let me remind you, the Jewish people are not going to disappear. We are small in number. We are just 15 million of us around the world. But we are brilliant and innovative people. It is the job of the World Jewish Congress to harness that brilliance. When Jewish children don't know the first thing about their past and their most precious legacy, it's our job to find a way to help them learn it. We will make it a priority to enable young Jews to be proud once again to be Jewish. We will fight BDS. We will challenge the United Nations. We will answer the lies on the internet and in the media with the truth. Remember one important fact. We are not the Jews of the 1930s. We have influence, we have great power, we have tremendous resources, and we have creativity. And that is the envy of the world. I intend to use everything in our arsenal. I will not be silent, and we will not be silent. The world heard our voice. There is an old Hasidic story that in every Jew, a flame burns. Sometime that flame is covered with dirt, and the person can't see it. But it's always there. It's always burning. All we have to do is dust off the dirt, and we'll find it. Something happened to me 35 years ago that helped me find my flame and my Jewishness. In 1986, I went to Austria as U.S. ambassador. One day, the Chabad rabbi, Jacob Biederman, invited me to visit a small school that he and his wife created for children coming out of the Soviet Union. These children weren't allowed to learn anything there about their heritage. And here they were, lighting Shabbat candles and singing Hebrew songs. Something touched me deep inside my heart. I kept thinking, there by the grace of God go I. I was born in the United States in 1944, but if I had born in Hungary, where my grandparents were from, would I have survived? If I had been born in Russia or anywhere else, I would not have been allowed to be Jewish. On that day, I vowed never to take my Judaism for granted. And our job here today is to help our children and our grandchildren discover that flame within each of them. That isn't just important for Jews, it's important for everyone, because over 5,000 years, that flame, that Jewish flame, has been lighting the entire world. We, the World Jewish Congress, will never let that flame go. Years from now, when our grandchildren walk tall and proud, when they raise their children with the beauty and excitement of their religion, when some of them live in the vibrant, creative, and safe Jewish state of Israel that is the envy of the world, they may not know about the time that Jews in Israel were vilified. They won't know who turned all of this around. That victory will belong to all of you in this room. And it won't even matter that they don't know it. That's because we stand here today on the shoulders of giants who moved heaven and earth for all of us. And we will do the same for our children. Stand with me. Let us do this together. And do not let this flame go out. Toda rabah, and thank you.